We've been talking about conflict this month and what that looks like and how you should respond and all these things. What happens after a conflict? The reality is that any conflict that we have, whether it's in the workplace or home, leaves a residue in the group, in the organization, or in the relationship. What do I mean by residue? It means that there is an aftermath, there is something that happens after. And every single conflict that we deal with will change our relationship with that other person for the better or for the worse, one way or the other. When we know this, for me, it gives me a lot better motivation to deal with the conflict well. So let me tell you a story. I worked with a client, a nonprofit team, about 6 months ago. And when I was working with them, and when we were in the middle of a workshop, several team members brought up something that was really challenging for the supervisor, right? The supervisor in the room did not agree with him. And her reaction was, I've heard that before. That's just too bad, right? She was not receptive at all to the feedback they had for what was going on in the organization. And so that didn't really move forward. One of the things I found out after this workshop, right? The rest of the workshop was a little bit awkward because nobody wanted to say anything else about that particular conflict, right? But that emotion and that issue that they had been brave enough to bring up, because it is hard to bring up an issue that you need to with a supervisor. And so they had some bravery and some vulnerability and brought something up, and it had sort of just been squashed. What I found out several months later is that leader ended up leaving the organization. And I truly believe that the aftermath of that conflict did not make anything better. In fact, it made everything worse. The reality is, because of the way that leader reacted, nobody else in that team felt comfortable bringing anything else up. When we have team members who cannot bring up issues or things that they are concerned about, it will hurt the organization, it will hurt the team, right? Because things will get missed because they do not feel like they can bring something up, because they do not feel like the leader is receptive to that. So the aftermath of that conflict was less and less trust. I have also seen this work the other way, right? I have some other clients that I've worked with before that when something like this was brought up, the leader asked questions. The leader did much of what I said in my last video about starting with humility and going, wow, I didn't see that. Tell me more. What do you mean? Why do you think that happened? Asked a lot of questions and was willing to listen and to consider what the options were going forward. One of the things we need to know is that even if nothing actually changes after that conversation, the fact that the leader approached it with curiosity and asked questions and let people be heard will change. The aftermath of that relationship will be more positive. There will be more trust in that relationship because the people who are bringing the problem forward were heard and felt heard and know that leader has their back and is listening to them, and they can bring the next thing forward as well. Maybe this one they weren't able to change the outcome, but the next one they will. So when you think about a conflict and you think about the way that you're dealing with it, taking the time to deal with conflict actually minimizes the negative impact and will almost always increase trust in the future between the people who had the conflict. So when we avoid conflict, it negatively impacts trust. And when we deal with conflict with humility and curiosity and listening to each other, we increase trust, even if not everybody's happy with the outcome. So the next time that you're dealing with something, really think about what is going to be the long-term impact of the way that I deal with this conflict with my team.